Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to be taking you a bit on a journey of what went into my mind when I was searching for a car. Right, so can everyone see my screen? I'm joking. Right, so I am a bit of a cheapskate, right? I don't like spending money. So when I was buying a car, that is exactly what went through my mind. So very high level, money was a big deciding factor. Right. So I have to say I was fortunate enough to have owned a car for about 6 years that my mother bought for me when I turned 21. So I didn't know what a car installment was. So I got the shock of my life when I go on, your Auto Trader, your Cost.coza, and obviously I start filtering on your BMWs. Let me actually do that now. I filter on BMW, I filter on Audi, all of the big girl cars, BMW, Audi, and Merc. And then I filter on price, right? Let's do that as well. So I'll filter on that, and then I filter on price. So you can see this is what I wanted to pay. You see that? So this option is currently disabled due to other selected items or selected options. So that's basically what I had in my mind. I was like, okay, I only want to borrow max 350,000. In this 350,000, I wanted it to have leather seats. I wanted it to have a sunroof. So obviously that didn't happen. So what I ended up doing is once I found out what cars actually cost, I ended up deciding what is the maximum that I want to pay on a monthly basis, and I went from there onwards. Right. So when I decided, or when I started seeing the 3 to 350, I wouldn't like, what the installment was showing. This is basically where I started, right? So let's say yes on that. Right. So we're done with budget. And then here, I wanted something new because the reason I was getting a car was because my current car, which was the Opel Corsa Lite 2008, was acting up. I'd been fixing it. It was switching off, on the freeway. So it didn't make me feel safe. And I like going out at night to gym, to see my partner and things like that. So for me, safety was, paramount. So like I said, new or under 20,000, that's essentially what I was looking at. I didn't really mind manual or auto because I hadn't driven auto before at the time. Body type, I wasn't, too worried about that. Fuel, I wasn't worried. New or used. Like I said, I was open to used as long as it's under 20,000 and hasn't been in an accident before. Vehicle type, I'm not going to filter here because I ended up buying a commercial, so I want to see if it actually shows up. And then seller, I don't really filter on that. So province, let's say, Gauteng, for the purposes of this demonstration. Makes and models, doesn't really matter. All right. Let's say price high to low. Right. So let's say actually low to high. So I started seeing all of these cars. Your Quid came through, your Suzuki Swift. I actually went and I saw a Suzuki Swift and I went inside it at Ford here in Sandton. Ford Fury. I didn't see the Ronald Triber. I did see the Ronald Duster, but it was out of my price range. Then I went and I saw a bunch of cars. Basically, I'd been in a Kia Picanto. My uncle's wife actually had one before, so I was familiar with that. Actually, let me just say new. Right? Okay. Yeah, price low to high. So this is basically what was on the market. I didn't like the Suzuki Celerio. Hyundai Etios, I didn't actually see one. I didn't go out and see one. Honda Amaze, I didn't check that. Picanto, I didn't really like it, but I was, familiar with it. Suzuki Swift, I liked it. My mom didn't. Right, so this was basically what was on the market, right? And my heart wanted an SUV. Then price-wise, that didn't come through. So the SUV was after I saw the BMWs and the Audis and, you know, the Mercedes. Then I realized that I also can't afford an SUV. And what I mean by can't afford is I don't want to pay for it. Do you understand what I mean? Because for me, it was very important to stick to budget, like I said. All right. So just high level, what I was thinking was interest paid, right? I didn't want to pay a lot of interest over my, my term of the loan, just in general. So that actually fed into the second thing, which I thought about, which was the amount borrowed, right? So generally, a car for me is just something that takes me from A to B. Can it take me to gym? Can it take me to the mall? Can it take me to go and see friends? Yes, yes, yes. That's about it. I was actually making a joke that I can't buy a car that's really expensive because I can't even see it. Like, my parking lot is so far from my unit where I currently stay. So for me, it's just something that lives outside and that takes me to and from places. So amount borrowed had been really low because I have investment goals that I want to stick to, and because the whole installment thing was going to be new to me, I didn't want to go high. Maintenance costs were also really important for me, having come from maintaining an old car, but that was relatively cheap to maintain. I didn't want to now start with the wesbank thing and be juggling high maintenance costs. And what also went into that was obviously petrol. It had to be relatively petrol efficient. I don't want to have to think twice if I wanted to go somewhere. Insurance premium, so I had King Price at the time, and that's where my Corsa Lite was insured. So what I would actually do is, for every model that I was thinking about, I would go on King Price and request a quote, and then it would give me a rough number that I could punch into my mocks spreadsheet for what I was thinking. So for instance, I played around with the Haval Jolion, and the installment for the insurance there for 2022 model was about 2K. And I thought that was rather, high, at least higher than, what I was wanting to pay, together with the installment being about 5.5, 5.8. So for me, that's already like 7K without petrol. That was a bit high for me. Tracker costs as well, which is about 200 if you get the full package. And this was also really important to me. So the resale value. So what that basically means is, if I change my mind about this car 6 months after I buy it, am I going to take a hit, right? If I want to get another car in 3 years' time, what do models 3 years ago, what do 2019 models retail for right now? So I had to go in and look at those. And for smaller cars, the resale and market value isn't very, promising. And that's simply because 2022 models are often better than 2019 models. So very few people will want to buy the 2019 models. They would much rather pay that much more and get the 2022 models. So the hatchback market doesn't do well in this metric. And then, like I said, the installment amount, which is basically linked to your amount borrowed and of course your interest paid. I didn't want to pay a lot of that because the installment amount would have been coming out of my savings. So I wanted to minimize that as much as possible. That being said, installment amount goes hand in hand. Let me just highlight it. It goes hand in hand with, interest paid and amount borrowed. I'll tell you why. It's because if I have a low installment amount, I can do that in two ways. One, I can borrow low, right, and pay low interest. Or I can do a weird combination of a deposit and an installment, not installment, a balloon payment. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to put the pressure on future Tando. I was like, okay, let me take the hit now and finance 100% of the car rather than finance, let's say 70% of, a high-end car. And then 5-6 years down the line, future Tando has to worry about that 30% lump sum. I don't want to do that to myself. I was like, look, yes, I want a low installment, but I also want the amount borrowed to the low, and I want the interest paid over the term to also be low with low maintenance costs. So I couldn't get that if I wanted a really expensive car. So borrow high, pay high interest, pay low installment, and then have the maintenance also be low. So for me, I was just playing around with these factors, and then that's how I came to be. So what I'm going to show you basically is I'm going to show you the costs and how they come out for the car that I ended up buying. So I ended up buying I'll show you, I ended up buying a buggy. I don't know, it's a single cab. Yeah, I ended up buying a Nissan NP200. The prices have actually gone up. So this is what I ended up buying because, like I said, the resale value is really good. I mean, you can find 2019 models for about 150,000 now. And in terms of maintenance, they're very low maintenance. I know this because you can get them with like 200,000 kilometers on them. On the dashboard, and they're still running. So that for me really, made sense because I wanted a car that I can pay off and it can sit in my carport, and I don't have to worry about an installment again. I can deploy my cash elsewhere, which is something that's very important to me. So you'll see it doesn't have the leather seats. It doesn't have, the cool display in front. It doesn't have the cool wheels. It doesn't have all of the sunroof and all of the things I had in my mind initially. But what it does have is everything that is here. It has the low interest. It has the low amount borrowed, low maintenance costs. I mean, I think my full tank now is about $850, and petrol is really expensive at this moment. But obviously, I don't wait for it to go to zero. So, because it's 50 liters, so petrol is 22, so it's just over 1,000. But I typically pay about 800 when I do go and fill up, which is reasonable for me. And then my premium is about 1,100 with F&B insurance. My tracker is about 215. It just went up from 200 Rand. Like I said, really good at resale value and market. And then my installment is 4,000. You'll check out my other video where I chat about, how much I'm paying at Westbank for my installment and how to read your Westbank statement, right? So basically here I'm paying about 4,000. It's probably going to be 4.1 next month because of the, the repo rate. Tracker, like I said, is 215. My insurance is I think it's 1,100 or just over 1,000. Petrol, like I said, is about 800. Let me actually say 1,000 for petrol because that's the full tank. Let me say here petrol, and then I'll say 50 liters, right? And then interest paid. Right, so total, this is what I'm paying for my car on the monthly. So in total, that's the amount I'm paying. You understand? That's the amount I'm paying. Let me get thick outside borders. Okay, total car. Right, so this is what my budget looks like basically. This is what I'm paying in total for my car, which actually isn't bad because previously I was already paying the 1,000. Actually, I was paying about 700 for petrol. For my old car, insurance was about 800, and I didn't have tracker. So this is the biggest one, that sort of added to my expenses. But I was happy with it. So now I'm going to show you the amount borrowed and what that speaks to, interest. Right, so I'm going to do it. Okay, so it says here, this is 208. So mine wasn't 208. Let's recalculate. So my vehicle was about 240. I'll tell you why, right? When you're buying a car like this, it doesn't have a canopy. So I had to buy the canopy for about 14,000. It doesn't have a radio. The radio is about 3,000. I had to get smash and grab. That was about 3,000. What else? I got the service plan. I think I got a 5-year service plan. That was a 20-something thousand. So all in all, when I came out of the shop, I paid 240,000. I think I had to swipe about 8,000, so I borrowed 230 something, but I can't quite remember. So I'll say deposit, I think it was 8,000, but I'm not sure about the actual 240 here. Trade-in value, none. I didn't trade in my car. I just, sold it privately. Interest rate, so I'm fortunate enough to work for a banking group, so I get a really good interest rate. So currently my interest rate is about prime minus 2.5, so that would be 8% because prime is 10.5. Yeah, prime is 10.5. I didn't take a balloon payment like I explained. Right, so this was my thought process. Let me see if prime, let's see, prime interest rate. Just want to double check on that. Yes, prime is 10.5, so I get minus 2.5, so it is 8%. Right, so this is essentially saying my monthly repayment is 4,068, and there's that 69 Rand monthly service fee. Total interest of 60,000. So I think this may have been a bit lower then, because I don't remember the interest being that much, but it's fine. It's because the interest rate is higher. Right, so if I were to take out the same car today, this is what the finances would look like. Monthly repayment of 4,000, total repayment or total payment of 292, and a total interest of 60,000 or 61,000, right? And I play around with these a lot, if I went to 60 months, then monthly payment would be 4.7, up from 4,000. Total payment of 282, down from, what was it? Down from 292, so down by 12,000, right? And then total interest of 50,000, down from, 60,000. So in my mind, I was like, I can pay 4.7 today, or I can pay 4,000 today, but then I can save 10,000 in the greater scheme of things. And I took the 72 months because 10,000 is really small over, the 10,000 extra is really small over 12 months. So I didn't mind taking that knock because my interest rates are so low. But for me, this is what played a factor, the car finance calculator. It wasn't how cool I'm going to look. It wasn't the breeze, when I'm rolling down with the sunroof. It wasn't the leather seats. For me, the most important things was, what is this going to look like on, my budget and my, my monthly spending. So this is what it looked like. Banks offer finance deposit of 10%. So I wasn't asked for a deposit. It was my first car, and it was insanely low relative to what I qualify for, which is also something that's very important. And it speaks to this amount borrowed, because I wanted to borrow very little for a car so that I could borrow a lot for, my property portfolio, which is something that I'm building and something that I'm really, getting into. So for me, a car was literally just something that I can, get into and go to viewings. So that was very important to me. So that's what, came into my decision making. This is the total. It's like 4.1 now. But basically, this is what goes into my costs. And a lot of the cars that I subarwelled with my heart, this was just the installment, right? So the petrol would have been higher. The insurance premium would have been higher. Tracker would have probably been the same. So the interest would have been higher because the amount borrowed would have been higher. So just think about it. Let me know what went into, the decision making when you looked at your car. Or if you're currently looking for a car, what's in your mind? What are you thinking? Are you doing the numbers? Are you running the numbers? Or are you going off of what your heart wants? That's also fine. But for me, this was very important. I don't want to lock capital into something that isn't really important to me. I just wanted something that's safe, that can take me from A to B, and that's what I got. All right, I'm going to leave the video here. Thank you for watching. Check out any of the other videos and let me know what you're thinking. It's Tando, and I'm here, delivering money hacks.